Hi, Arlene.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, good, good. Yeah, I think we're going to get into a really interesting session today. Um, I don't expect that many people live, but I think when we start broadcasting this, we're going to get a lot of feedback because I was only able to announce it today. So I have 70 some registrations, but some of the people, is Francesco will be there. The former UNWTO Taleb will be there. Hisham Zazou, you know him from Egypt. The former Minister of Tourism from Peru, even though it's in the middle of the night, so I don't know if she's going to join us, and several others. So how do you want me to introduce you? Of course, I know Minister of Tourism, I know the Secretary, the candidate, and also as African Tourism Board President.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Don't complicate life too much.
No, I know. So what I thought we could, we have to give the history a little bit because not everyone knows what is going on with UNWTO unless they all read us. And maybe I can summarize a little bit, and maybe then we can just have Taleb say a few words, or we go first to the candidates, to your experience. What do you think?
No, I think let Taleb and Frangeli speak. They were there before.
Okay.
What are the expectations of that position? I think that would be a good way. Is the Bahrain lady coming or not?
No, I don't know. No. Matter of fact, let me call Taleb. If you join, you can join. And everyone is chicken out. All these people who are supporting, they never want to show their face. It's like Madame Doe, I talked to her today, all of a sudden she's on the train.
It's all the same. Always the same.
Yeah.
But he'll be confirmed.
I don't know. You think so?
Well, unless people like Madame Doe step forward, others step forward.
Gloria doesn't think so. I talked to Gloria earlier, and she's also one I invited. She doesn't want to show face. It's just crazy. But she thinks the Saudis won't confirm it, and they're lobbying for him not to get confirmed.
What about Balala? Is he coming?
I invited him. I haven't heard back from him. So, see, I only invited hours ago because at nighttime, your time now, it's morning in most parts, because I didn't know about it. It just came up. But I think it's a good opportunity. We can have more like live events. I think it doesn't have to be stopping with this one, I think.
Cuthbert, have you heard from him?
Yeah, he's on the plane. I talked to him yesterday. He was in Senegal. And I don't really realize really the situation. He doesn't understand. He's not really communicating. He's communicating with this guy from, from Nigeria, who's nice. He has all these nice posters he puts, but it doesn't go into the open. And Cuthbert doesn't understand it. So I'm going to put our website together also, hopefully. No, that's a different RIFI. But he said he understood, and he will change the communication. He will do all this. Let's see what happens. But he cannot call in because he's not available. He's on a plane. So I don't know. So we don't have any one of the people here except Arvinder. Who's W Al Rifai? That's not Taleb.
He's ghost.
It's a ghost. Yeah, hopefully Talib will send him a message. Yeah, I saw Talib in London, and I think he has to watch his health a little bit. He's really he's really trying. I think he's really trying.
One lady who wants to be part of ATB, if we can get her on the executive, is the former minister of Ghana.
Okay, that would be good.
Catherine, yeah. She's very, very good, very popular.
Okay.
She was in the front row with the first lady, highly popular. I caught up with her when I was going out, and she was surrounded by people, and she called me and came to kiss me. But she said, I want to be involved.
Okay. Yeah, but why not? I mean, I'm fine because I really think the African Tourism Board, I should stay in the background. I will concentrate on the.
But it's lost a bit momentum these days. It's you hear Cuthbert, but that's about it.
Yeah, and he's just going around and giving out rewards these days.
You saw the invite that I got to address this economic forum.
No, I didn't see that.
I sent it to you on WhatsApp and sent it to Linda as well. But,
okay, I probably did. I was so busy today. It was my first day back after, so I have on my WhatsApp hundreds of messages. Yes, I probably didn't.
I'll resend it. It's good to put it out, but because it shows, it keeps the name floating. That's the main thing.
Okay, we published something today, I think, from what you sent. I sent it to
yesterday. You published the Ghana one, the price giving.
Yeah, that's what we did. Okay, I didn't see this one. I can. So who do we have in the room now? We have. Well, we got 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Talib just sent back. He's joining in 3 minutes, so that would be right on time if he does. We have Andrew Wood, Apollinaria. I can get. You want me to let Apollinaria?
That's your man in
Tanzania. Yeah, let me get it. And
looks like a bottled water of some sort, Apollinaire.
Yeah.
I'll find that and send it back to you.
Okay. So I can let Andrew in too. Andrew, you know Andrew from Thailand, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just resent you this release.
I saw it. I see it coming in. Yeah.
Get it. Send it to Linda. Tell her to put it out. It's
okay. Let's see. So we got Apollinaria. Apollinaria, are you here? And Andrew. I let Andrew in, but I cannot see him.
Andrew's there. I can see him.
Oh, you see him. Okay. Andrew, are you there?
His mic is locked.
Okay, so I think we can let people in. Okay, let me let people in, and Walter is also joining us. Okay.
Hello, Alan.
Hi, Walter. Sir. How are you in South Africa?
Fine, thanks. Long time.
I know. You've been hiding.
Busy. Busy.
I was worried for you.
Sure.
Because you're on the mainland, you can be eaten by any animal.
You must call me over to the Seychelles. I must come over there for a break, eh?
We'll have to try and fix one of these trips that I go and get you involved with it.
Yes, please. Please, I would love that.
I was just telling Jorgen I was invited now to go to Mauritania to address a conference.
Oh, is that right?
And I've never been there, so it's an economic conference.
Be careful,
Okay.
It's not. Okay, here someone is joining. Hang on, who's sharing? Can you stop there?
What happened? Oh.
Okay, I got it back. I think we can now probably go live on the social media. Taleb should be. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we're live now on social media. We're waiting for a few more people here.
Jürgen, can I test whether you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Andrew. How are you?
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon. I think you're...
It's evening here. It's
Sorry, wrong way. Right. And hello to everybody. Thank you.
Hi, Carlos. How are you? Okay, Deepak is also joining us. And Taleb will be here in a minute or so, he said. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, just give us, we're getting everyone together here. Okay. Hi, Deepak, how are you?
Hi, Jürgen. Namaste from Nepal.
Namaste. Okay, we're still getting a lot of people lined up here, so let me get them in. I met your new CEO in London.
WTM.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Before he came, before it happens with the whiskey, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're getting more people coming in here now. Just 1 second. We're waiting for Taleb, our main guy, so he said he's trying to connect.
Hi, Jürgen. I can see that the system has picked up, I'm Carlos. It has picked up my second family name, which nobody knows me on my second family name. So I just want to identify myself as Carlos Vogeler. And I want to say hello to my good friend Walter, which was long time
Carlos.
we didn't see each
other.
How are you? I'm good, good.
You look
nice
well.
to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Good to see you too.
Long time.
Long time. You look well.
So do you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so,
hello, Alan, to you as well. You also look well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Same.
Okay, so we're getting there. I'm waiting for Taleb, and Francesco said he was coming in, but I don't see them yet. So Taleb said he's trying to connect. Let's see. So if he doesn't come in the next minute or so, I think we can start anyway and get everyone going here. We just see, we have a few more people. And this was all really, really scheduled the very last second. So I don't expect a huge audience online, but I'm sure we're going to pick up some interest once we run it on eTurbo News and everywhere. But we are live on eTurbo News, and we're also live on our social media. And anyone now listening to us on eTurbo News or the ETN social media, if you wanted to join us still, you can be part of this live audience. Go to worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com, and you only see two events listed. One is our African Tourism Day, and one is this one about UNWTO. Just click on it, and you can actually still join us. Okay, so just give it a minute or two. Okay, so Talib, I don't see his WhatsApp turning blue, but it usually does when he got one message that I'm trying to connect. So let's see, maybe he has internet issues. We've got Birgit joining us. Okay, we have Raed from Saudi Arabia joining us. So let's give it 2 minutes, and then we until Talib hopefully gets to connect. Okay. Okay.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Jürgen. Good morning, everybody from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, hi, Ray. Good morning. How are you?
Yes, I'm great. I just saw your invite and I wanted to join you. It's been a long time. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. And I think what we can do is, if this is okay, we can probably start with Walter and Alain, but let me just officially start. We're waiting for Talib, who's still struggling to get in. Francesco also sent 2 notes that he's trying to come in, so hopefully we get everyone together. But without further delay, I wanted to say hello and good evening and aloha from Hawaii. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. I'm joining you from eTurbo News and the World Tourism Network here in Honolulu. And today is going to be an exciting, I think it's going to be a very interesting, I don't know how exciting it will be, but an interesting discussion about the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, and in regards to the upcoming General Assembly in Madrid, what is supposed to take place, I believe, from November 28th to December 3rd. One of the important part at the General Assembly is the reconfirmation of the Secretary General, who was elected in January in Madrid by the Executive Council, and needs to be confirmed in Madrid. And there seems to be a controversy about this confirmation. There has been an open letter published today, my time, or yesterday for most of you, and signed by Taleb Rifai, by the previous Secretary General Mr. Francesco Frangiali, and by several others, high-ranking people, including Carlos Vergla, who is already with us here on this call. For anyone who doesn't know too much what was going on at the World Tourism election, there has been a controversy really dating back since 2017, 2018, when the current administration at UNW took over. I think to maybe refresh the history a little bit, and then we can go to Carlos and wait for Taleb to come in. Maybe Walter Memzebi, who is with us here, can say something. Walter was the candidate for UNWTO, and he was number 2 in the election after Zora. I'm sorry, let me mute everybody here. Just one second. And Walter Memzebi was also the Minister of Tourism in Zimbabwe for many years. And this was, I believe, from 2009 to 2017, when he then became the Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe. And he is probably very qualified, together with Alain Sandange and Carlos, who was also a candidate, running together with Madame Doe, to say a little bit, explain a little bit about the history. Walter, how are you? Maybe you can unmute yourself. There we go.
Hello, Eugen. Hello, colleagues, former ministers, distinguished tourism and travel practitioners on this Zoom conference. I salute all of you and wish you the best of health going forward into the future. I'm very happy to see that many of you look really, really fresh, and I think retirement has done a lot of good things to many of us. So it's good to see you once again. But that notwithstanding, I think when you see the interests of such a distinguished panel and others who are yet to come, being invited into an issue as cardinal as the one that is under consideration today, then you begin to say there is an issue that needs to be addressed. And principally, I think the whole world is so seized with democracy indices, transparency and accountability issues, to the extent that one would expect that within the United Nations system itself, or any of its agencies, we are supposed to witness best practice with regards to the conduct of elections and democratic processes. So I think you are asking us to invoke our memories around 2017, and part of which a lot of its indiscretions and oversights have been addressed even on the part of my good friend Alan through the justice system in his own country. But that said, I think by the time we moved to Chengdu, there was principally a dispute between Zimbabwe and, for lack of a better word, the entire fraternal fellowship of the UNWTO system, because Zimbabwe was insisting at the time on the application of Article 43 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Assembly, insofar as it grants members the right to confirm by secret ballot or secret vote the confirmation of a Secretary General who has been elected by an Executive Council and recommended to the plenary of the General Assembly. And many of you would recall that we were gridlocked for nearly 5 hours in the plenary conference room of Chengdu, trying to resolve this issue. And at the time, Zimbabwe had the backing of, I think it was the minister from Gambia, who was eventually stood down by his own president to allow progress in the conference room. And the moment that request of a secret ballot secondment was withdrawn by Gambia, it basically meant that I had to concede at the time to the accession of Zurab to the office of Secretary General. And this is exactly how it happened. So we disregarded Article 43 at the time and allowed an election or confirmation of Secretary General by acclamation. So today we are back where we were in 2017, being tested on the same principle of the invocation of Article 43, insofar as it is applied on the confirmation of a Secretary General. Now, why is it important? It is important to the extent that when I considered at the time, one of the tasks that I was given as Zimbabwe and a member of the Executive Council at the time and a very senior member for that matter, because I had served 10 years as tourism minister, was to lead the reform agenda of the UNWTO insofar as the revisiting the rules of procedure and every article that is pertinent to the election of a Secretary General. And unfortunately, many of you would recall that on the 15th of November, which was yesterday, 4 years ago, I was unable to receive both Taleb and Zurab in Zimbabwe, where they were going to ask Mugabe to release me to deputize Zurab, because that was part of the understanding, and then proceed to lead the committee that would reform the UNWTO. I was unable to do that because there was a coup unfolding in Zimbabwe on the same day. So they could not proceed to Zimbabwe to come and meet Mugabe. And my successor did a very good job of forgetting the mandate of Zimbabwe, because it was not a personal mandate, or forgetting the mandate of Zimbabwe to lead the reform process of the UNWTO insofar as making sure that what happened in Chengdu would not be repeated again in the future history of the UNWTO. So regrettably, we find ourselves as the eminent group and elders of the UNWTO seized with the same matter that we were unable to resolve in 2017 or in the intervening years. And we are obviously very, very concerned because it has a reflection and an impact on our legacy, which we all collectively put into creating the UNWTO that we wanted to see, and that had grown the tourism sector to a point where it became the third largest pillar after food and chemicals, employing 240 million people, contributing 10% to global gross domestic product. So we are very concerned. We are the elders of the sector. We are very concerned, and that's why we are here. We are not taking a personal potshot at Zurab or the current Secretary General. We are simply concerned about the operation of democratic processes and the application of rules of procedure within that organization. So I think my colleague, Alan, will pick from where I've left. Is very fresh with the issues also. And I'm happy that his country also addressed his own bilateral issues inside his jurisdiction. But he's quite competent, I think, to pick from where I left. I thank you.
And thank you very much, Walter. And before we give to Alain, I just talked to Taleb. He has problems connecting. He's going to try it again now. He was on my WhatsApp. So we expect him shortly. I see also the former Secretary General Francesco Vangelli is joining. I see him here, but apparently it's also not connecting. But I see him joining. So let's see if we get everyone together. But Alain, the microphone is yours. And Walter, I'm very happy you said my good friend Alain, because I know when this all happened, the friendship wasn't all that great between the two of you. So I'm glad this is improving. We can all put this behind and start fresh here. Alain, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much, Jorgen. Minister Mzembe, I appreciate your words, and I appreciate the way you took this this whole scenario of the last elections. I will not go into what you said, but I will move from there. I think the Chengdu General Assembly will remain in the history of UNWTO, remain, and I'm sure Taleb must be, in French, there's a saying, c'est ma faute, c'est ma plus grande faute. It is my mistake and my biggest mistake, as he hits his chest. We should have kept to the rules of the game. We cannot change halfway because that just opens the door for other things to develop from it. But I want to pursue today, why are we all meeting? Why are we all sitting here to discuss tourism on the eve, virtually on the eve, of a confirmation of the General Secretary General of the UNWTO? I believe with the COVID pandemic, more than ever before, the world of tourism should have been coming together. Should have been coming together to look how to give a breath of fresh air to the economies of the different countries and also to the airline industry of the world. We are sitting here because there is a void. There's a clear void. And we need, as people involved in the tourism fraternity in one way or another, to find a way for us to say, how are we all going to be involved? Who is going to bring everybody? I mean, we have two former Secretary General, Taleb and Frangeli. We have one former Deputy Secretary General, Carlos. We have us, Walter and myself, as two candidates. But we are not the only ones. There's Madame Doe, there's a lot of other people. There are eminent people of the tourism industry. And here I think of Mr. Lipman, who is pushing the Sun program agenda forward. There are so many qualified people. Why is everybody not together, sitting together, looking at ways forward, not to redo what was done in the past? That is impossible. The world has moved. The tourism industry today needs a new breath of fresh air. Are we having it? Is it there? No. This is why we are sitting here from the four corners of the world. We are sitting and looking at how best to bring it forward. I want today to appeal to the UN, United Nations, and through it, the World Tourism Organization. We need to rally everybody. Whatever will happen with this confirmation or not, tourism needs leadership, especially in a time of crisis. The world is in crisis. It is recovering. Some are not. The world climate, the blue economy, and so on is another facet of it. It is not time for distractions. And when I listen to the different programs, what we are trying to achieve from Madrid, I must say I'm a bit disappointed. It is not time for the little save-face approach. It is time really for the world of tourism to rise to the occasion, to say we need to lead. We know Africa. I mean, Minister Mzembe and myself are from Africa. We know that Africa needs its tourism industry. But we also know that Asia, I was working in Indonesia for a little while. We also know that Asia needs it. We also know that South America, North America, Europe, everybody needs the tourism industry to kickstart. And with it, help the airline industry of the world move forward. We are not achieving. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not achieving because there's a void. We need to find a way for UNWTO to take its rightful place as the leader. You open a TV, you see it on there, talking not about the past, not about where we are going to look for distractions, but as a leader to say, this is what we're going to do. From vaccines to passport for vaccines, to all these other things that needs to be done, what are we doing about it? And I'm sure the world at large is looking for direction. Governments are looking for direction. The industry is looking for direction, but we're not having it. Would Mr. Mzembe have been a better SG? This is not for me to say. But we know the commitment of Walter Mzembe. We know the commitment of Taleb, Frangeli, Carlos, myself, and so many others. But nobody attempts to say we need to find a way to bring people around the table. No one has a monopoly on ideas. This is impossible. You need to be talking to people in the know, people that live it, people that breathe it, and people that can make a difference. Today, it is sad that we have to have this meeting. It is very sad. If we are doing it, it's because there is a void. It's not because of an open letter that was done. The open letter would have gone like water on a duck's back. It is making traction because there is a void and an anomaly. So we need to resolve it. And if the UN doesn't see that there is a void, there's something wrong with our international organizations. We have to go back to the deciding way. We have to move properly and say to countries and members, where do we go? What do we do? Have good deliberations, everybody, and thank you for being present.
Thank you very much, Alain. Much appreciated. I wanted to recognize Mr. Francesco Frangiali, and I'm sorry if I pronounced this a little bit off, but of course, Mr. Frangiali was Secretary General for the World Tourism Organization for 10 years, I believe, back in, it was from 1997 to 2009, I believe you were involved. Yes. So if anyone knows UNWTO, he's the longest serving Secretary General, I think UNWTO had. We're also, I've talked to Taleb now twice. He is on WhatsApp and is struggling to connect. So I don't really know why not. I asked him to maybe to reboot his computer, and that's what he's doing right now. So hopefully he will join us. And Mr. Vanjali, if this is okay, maybe we can go to Carlos. He's also the assigner of this document, and then go to you or Taleb and get some feedback. Carlos, is that okay? And Carlos Vergler, of course, has also been a candidate, and we know at the former election, together with Walter Memzebi and Alain St-Ange. He campaigned together with Madame Do from Korea, who is right now in Ascend is on a train and cannot join us. But Carlos, I'm very happy you're here and the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Jürgen. I think that both Walter and Alain have explained very clearly what the situation is, the history, and what we need to look into for the future. And this is why the only thing that a group of us wanted to do is alert member states in order to have the facts that are required to take the right decision. Whatever that decision is, I think they have to go through a thorough analysis on how the organization is, what are the principles of the organization, and if these principles go by the United Nations Act or not. And there are a number of things that have been happening that perhaps have been not really analyzed properly by many of the constituency that makes up the organization. And we have, in our open letter, simply tried to alert. There is a report coming from the ethics officer of the organization, which speaks about arbitrary and opaque management with some irregularities which are happening. And that should not be part of the United Nations system, of any United Nations agency. And sometimes we find that many of the delegations that are attending the UNWTO meetings don't look into the documents, don't look into the details properly, don't analyze the situation. And a secretariat, which is not 100% aligned with ethics and principles, might take advantage of that. And I think this is purely why we are saying, let's invite the member states to ask the Office of Internal Oversight Services of the UN to look into it. I mean, perhaps there is nothing wrong going on. We believe that there is, but let's have a proper inspection of what is being done in UNWTO. There are things related to the management of human resources and the arbitrary recruitment and appointment of staff, and a regime of fear that apparently has been implemented. And we are hearing that obviously in a very discreet manner from many of the existing members of the organization. But moreover, what we need is a Secretary General which is fully legitimized. Without that, we are going to be facing an uncomfort, a permanent uncomfort by many of the members. And when I say fully legitimized, is purely what Walter Semby and Alan Santange explained. Just follow the procedures, follow the rules of the organization. The way that the Executive Council was called in the month of January is highly, highly irregular. And that has to be known, because it didn't give enough time for other governments to present their candidates. It's as simple as that. So we just want to go back to normality. We want to go back to a process which is transparent, which is open, and legitimizes whomever should be the new Secretary General. This is basically what we would want to alert, so that we are all comfortable with the strong organization which is required. We already know that tourism is facing, and Alan Santange explained it very clearly, a number of challenges, not only because of the pandemic, which is the biggest crisis that we have been facing, but on an ongoing basis, we always had issues in trying to make governments understand that tourism has to be a priority because of its socioeconomic contribution. And we always face that issue. But we also have to build stronger alliances with the private sector, which is the engine of the sector. So, and that is not necessarily here. There are a number of things that are so important to all of us that have the passion for tourism and for the communities that need to benefit from tourism, that we need to have a proper management, a fully legitimized in UNWTO. And that's what we simply call for member states to look into it and to follow the process. And if they consider, after having all the facts and all the information, that the current Secretary General should be reappointed, so be it. But if they consider that a proper new process of election should be open to give opportunity to other governments to present their candidates, so be it. But let's have the General Assembly deciding according to the rules established by the General Assembly in a way that we all feel comfortable that the new Secretary General is fully legitimized.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And before we go to Mr. Vangeli, I have Taleb. He has he's struggling connecting. So I got him on my WhatsApp. He can see you. And we're going to try to, I'm going to hold my microphone to the WhatsApp so he can address you, if that's okay, Taleb. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'm so sorry you're having issues connecting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I think we can hear you. Okay, go ahead.
I'm very happy this is happening. I welcome and everybody else. I just want to listen. What should we do? I don't think attacking the agenda. I don't think they will let us in. What we need to do is speak and distribute this letter as wide as possible.
I don't know, everyone, did you hear Taleb?
No, we heard him, but it's
follow.
Not very clear, Mr. Jürgen.
It's not very clear. Okay, so why don't we go? I'm going to see if I can hook him up to one of my speakers here. In the meantime, let's go. And I have to say, I'm very, very happy to have Mr. Vangeli part of this event, because out of everyone here, I think not only does he have the most seniority within the UNWTO system, but also has all the background needed to understand the history and what is going on. Mr. Vangeli, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
I am pleased to see most of you. I know them, and especially those who have been working with me for a long time, like Carlos, Jose, and many others. I see their name as a figure. I would like to make a comparison on what has been WTO, let's say 10 years ago, and what I can see from outside today. And I think the picture is very sad of what has happened. 10 days ago, the influence of the organization was much broader than what it is today. One of the major weaknesses of the organization is the absence of some major industrialized countries. But let's remember that 10 years ago, countries such as UK, Norway, Canada, Australia, Baltic countries were members. So this is not impossible. I had a commitment from New Zealand to join, and the Minister, the Secretary for Commerce of the United States had recommended to the President to join. We have been unable to address a major change in the distribution of power in the to face the decentralization process of tourism responsibilities in the major countries. In OECD countries, you have very few now where you have a tourism administration. So the NTAs, the tourism administration, used to be the pillars of the organization in the past. Today, we must find other solutions to represent in these countries, the developed countries, this new balance of power. We have been unable to do that. It's not easy. Some countries, like the host country, Spain, are very keen on maintaining the role of central government. But we have been unable to address the issue of local powers, how we can associate better the regions, the cities, the conference centers, and the local tourism bodies to the organization. We have been unable to enlarge our presence in the private sector. Our affiliate membership is very weak. We have a rotation of members, and the core of the group does not represent the major players in world tourism today. So the organization has lost a part of its influence. In spite of the major transformation that we were able to drive in the year 2002, 2003, 2004, which has been to transform the WTO into a UN WTO, meaning by that to become a full-fledged agency, specialized agency in the UN system. My second remark is about the way that the organization has been able to act in the past 2 years. We have been facing the most important crisis in the history of world tourism. Even the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, the subprime crisis, was not like that. Have you heard the voice of UNWTO during that time? Almost nothing, almost nothing. From my point of view, there were 3 things to do in this crisis period. One, to measure the impact of this crisis, of the sanitary crisis, on the industry. This was done a little bit by UNWTO using the barometers that we had put in place in the past. But other organizations, UNEP, UNDP, the UN Secretariat itself, UNCTAD, OECD, were much more efficient in exploring the impact of the sanitary crisis on the industry. The second thing that the organization should have done in this period would have been to facilitate the travel in relation with the other UN agencies which are in charge of that, meaning by that WHO, Health, and ICAO, Air Transport. What the European Union has done for a part, we should have done that on a global basis, along with the other agencies of the UN system. And thirdly, we should have been able to prepare for the future. This crisis has stressed the interrelation between tourism and the other major global phenomena of mankind today and our planet. One is health, but you have the migration, you have the global warming. And we have been really very, very weak on that. So I am very sad when I see that. And the third preoccupation has been already explained by the other speakers, and especially by Carlos. It's very sad to see what has happened in terms of the internal life of the organization. The starting point, meaning the last election of the Secretary General, was not, from my point of view, conducted in a correct way. In the Executive Council, our friend Alain Saint-Ange, from my point of view, was misled when it was said to him that he was not authorized to run once his government has withdrawn the support. He was authorized to run. This could have changed the picture. And secondly, in the assembly itself, in Chengdu, the Honorable Minister, Mr. Mzembe, was there, and one delegation, it was Gambia, asked for a public votation. This was the rule. The Secretary General, Mr. Rifai, should have said, no discussion. We should do what we have done in 2005 when it had happened already. There is no discussion. Once, at the moment, as one country has asked for sticking with the procedure, the normal procedure, which is a secret ballot, we should have just done that. I don't know if this would have changed the outcome, but it would have been a regular process. This was not a regular election. So when you are elected in an irregular manner, the worst is to be feared afterward. And we have seen the worst, a total absence of decency in terms of, for instance, recruitment. Major officials has been forced to leave, who were the most experimented, and some recruitment has been done with unqualified people. So when you have only people of that nature, you cannot do the good work. This is why we have not been performing well. So I am not surprised with the move coming from the ethical officer. From the moment when the ancient ethical officer was from outside, Mr. Eugenio Yunis, someone who was very able and whose an integrity would not be questioned. Once he has been fired and replaced by someone from inside, even if this person was full of goodwill, because it's a lady, was not in a position to do your work. You cannot be a counterpower if you are under the authority of the Secretary General. So what is coming now, it's not a surprise. And I think that the word ethics has become an incongruity in UNWTO today, and this is very sad. I am not too optimistic that what's happening today will change the outcome. Why? Because the nature of our delegates in the General Assembly has changed from what it has been in the past. In the past, for the ancient people who are there, we used to have very qualified and experimented delegates who have been following the life of the organization for 10, 15, 20 years. I have many names. They were the founders of the organization. And the Secretary General could not say stupid things. They were there to control and to force you to stick with the rules and the good practice. Today, you have young delegates, sometimes very nice, full of energy, but with no background. And you can tell them whatever you want. They believe the Secretary General because he is the Secretary General. So this is a rather sad picture. I am not very optimistic, but sometimes you can hope that you are wrong in your prediction and things will still present a surprise. So I hope there will be a nice surprise during, I am not sure, but I hope there will be a surprise during the upcoming General Assembly.
Thank you very much. And hopefully there will be a nice surprise. But I think maybe one of the challenges I can see as an outsider is that in having this General Assembly during the COVID crisis now moved from Morocco to Madrid last minute is a challenge for ministers of tourism from across the world to travel to Madrid. And it may be a decision by embassies and ambassadors, and there are not that many in Madrid, and many of them are known by the Secretary General, of course, when he was ambassador for Georgia. I don't know how you see this could turn out into a fair solution. How is there a way of changing the rules? Probably there won't be possible that ministers could remotely attend the General Assembly, or is this completely out? Okay, I got Talib here to answer. I have this other microphone on, so hopefully we can hear him better. Talib, could you try again to say something?
Yes, I said it's not complete.
Okay, are you guys able to hear Talib?
Do you hear me?
No, I don't think we can hear you very well. The problem is I have a brand new iPhone. I just picked it up today and I'm trying to understand it. I think I have it on speaker and I'm holding it next to the microphone, but I don't think... Talib said the idea is not completely out. Talib, how can you explain this? I mean, how could this be changed that ministers could attend remotely?
I think it's in the hands of the council to decide on that.
He said it's in the hands of the Executive Council to decide on this. That means that for the Executive Council, before the General, they have to decide it before the General Assembly. Is that correct?
That's right.
Mr. Vangeli, do you agree with Talib's statements?
No, I'm sorry. I have some difficulty to hear you. The sound. Okay. Can you turn up the sound?
Yeah, I'm trying. Unfortunately, Talib is coming in on my iPhone, and the sound is as high as it can. At least I know how to get it. I was trying to hook it up to a speaker, but none of my plugs fit into my new iPhone, so I cannot somehow connect it. But what he was saying is he still thinks there is a chance if the Executive Council would decide to allow a remote participation for ministers to have this vote also remotely by Zoom or by other technical means. Do you know, Mr. Vangeli, if this would be possible? Okay, well, there doesn't seem to be an opinion on this, but this definitely would be an interesting thought, you know, if this was possible.
Anything is possible if the General Assembly agrees on it. General Assembly is its own body. It can decide on anything it wants.
Okay, he said the General Assembly can decide on anything it wants. So maybe that's something to work forward if there is a way, because I cannot see, for the word of it, that a lot of ministers will actually attend in Madrid. Maybe now, after the open letter, it becomes a more urgent issue. And maybe there wouldn't even be a quorum. And if there isn't a quorum, then of course, I don't know what would happen if there wasn't a quorum.
General Assembly will have to be postponed.
It would have to be postponed. When that would make a second election, of course, even more remote.
Yes.
And also to make clear, there has been some questions about if there was a rejection for the Secretary General at the General Assembly. It doesn't mean, by no means, that the candidate who was running in January from Bahrain would automatically become Secretary General. It would be a brand new game, and her and other candidates could, of course, join the team and compete. That's correct, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
It has to go back to the Executive Council.
It goes back to the Executive Council, and you start from scratch. I'm wondering. We have a lot of good people here in our audience as well, and there have been a lot of activities here in the chat. So if anyone, Alain wants to come in, but if anyone else wants to come in, just click on this little hand. I see Violini Galea already raised his hand, so we're going to get to you soon. But Alain, you wanted to say something.
Jürgen, just to having listened to what you repeated that Taleb said about the General Assembly, also what Francesco Frangiali said, and Carlos, of course, also Walter. Today, we are sitting here because there's been nothing seen being done for the tourism industry. The world is crying for something to be done. It is quite clear. If the world is crying, why are we not seeing this? Why is the UN sitting in New York, looking at all possible ways of looking at the world and talking about the world, when the greatest economic delivery for the world, which is tourism, is being sidelined? I know somebody on the chat spoke about the African Union. Yes, maybe Walter, myself, and a few of us throughout the African Tourism Board should talk to the African Union today and say, tourism is needed. Tourism is not being heard. It is not being heard because there's no leadership. Let us say what can be done. Africa needs it. The world needs it. So what do we do about it? I totally support what Francesco said. And I sympathize with you, a former Secretary General, having to say what you said, that we are today in a limbo because we are not moving forward. Gentlemen, there's enough people around the place who can make a difference. Let us make a difference. Let us say that 2021 will end with making a difference to revive an industry that the world needs. I want to take this opportunity to salute Saudi Arabia. I salute them because when there was no talk, you heard Saudi Arabia. They've appointed a new body for tourism that is today leading the way as private sector and government together. How can we have more Saudi Arabias? Or more the vision that Saudi Arabia is projecting? We need this. Let us work to get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alain. And
yes, I would like to support what Alain has just said. What I have noted during the past months is that the UN Secretary General, Guterres, spoke many times about tourism. You know, there is something which is a bit strange. When you are in a normal economic and social situation, even in countries where tourism is a fundamental activity, no one speaks about tourism. It is considered as just something normal, which doesn't appeal for any intervention, any assistance, any concern from the government. When you are in a crisis situation, as we are now, then you discover how tourism is important for your well-being, for your economy, for the social relation, for the culture. And I know as well the UN Secretary General. I used to know him when he was Prime Minister of Portugal. And when we were facing the financial situation in 2008, 2009, he was head of the agencies for the refugees. And we discussed how tourism would be affected by the crisis. He has been speaking loud in this crisis, but there was no response from UNWTO to him. We did not see the hands coming from the United Nations. We were absent, and this was not the responsibility of the UN from my point of view. I would like to elaborate on one point I made before, what will come now. A candidate, the incumbent, is recommended by the Executive Council under conditions that both Taleb Rifai and myself, we have criticized, because they were unfair the way the meeting took place, of the council took place in Tbilisi and then in Madrid. Still, we have a candidate recommended by the council. From the rules, he has to be approved, elected, by the 2/3 of the members present and voting in the General Assembly. This is fundamental because if 1/3 of the members do not accept the recommendation coming from the council, you have to redo the whole process. And I am afraid that the precedent, the mistake which was made last time in Chengdu, could inspire the procedure in Madrid. I think we have to be very firm on saying that the rule is the 2/3, and it means that the 2/3 have been expressed through a personal, individual votation and not by acclamation. Why have we done that by acclamation in the old time? When there was absolutely no discussion, there was unanimity about the person who would be designated. Then it was easy to say, we are not going to lose 2 hours for individual voting by countries. We do that by applauding, and it's done. It is what happened, for instance, for my first election in Istanbul in 1997. In 2005, that was my third and last election, which took place in Dakar. I had some difficulty with the government of Spain because of the complex question of decentralization, which is a very sensible issue for Spain. So Spain didn't want to give me a blank check, and they asked for sticking with the rules and have a public votation. I immediately answered, even if it's not in my favor, Spain has asked to stick with the individual votation of countries. We stick with the individual votation of countries. It's absolutely important to be firm, because if you have more than 1/3, then you have to reopen the full designation process and ask the council to propose another name to the assembly. So I really want to draw your attention on this rule of procedure of the organization.
Thank you very much. Walter raised his hand, and we also now welcome Taleb. So Taleb, I give you the microphone in just a minute. Walter had raised his hand, and then we have Galileo raised his hand as well. And we have several others who also wanted to ask questions. So Walter, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I think we've listened to some very insightful contributions coming from a person who has actually been Secretary General himself, Francesco. And he has outlined really the tragedy that sits inside the UNWTO. But essentially, it is the open letter of him and Taleb and others that has attracted our attention, that has attracted the attention of this oversight body, this watchdog, of eminent persons who have been in this industry, who bleed for the industry. We need to convert this energy and this response into some concrete action. And we can only do it on the back of the ethics officer's reports, because that is authentic, that is legitimate. And it's not derived from here, a pressure group setting. It is official. So we latch on to that, we leverage that, and we write to presidents. This is no longer an open letter. We are writing presidents because ministers are agents of governments when they come to a General Assembly. And we also know that there is a weakness which already Francesco has highlighted, that many of them are fairly new and are not accustomed to General Assembly business or Executive Council business. So let's assist. We are not an affront to anyone, but let's assist by channeling the energy in this session, the clout in this session, the authority in this session, our bed residual, into some concrete action on the back of the ethics report and the statutes of the UNWTO itself. They cannot afford to violate their own rules, and we can escalate this first and foremost to Guterres himself at the UN, because he is also a watchdog of the UN system itself. They sit in cabinets. Taleb and Francesco will tell you that maybe twice a year or so, they will meet to review issues. And if there's an urgent matter that is escalated to him by way of petition of these eminent signatures inside this Zoom meeting, to say there's an anomaly going on at the UNWTO and it needs to be stopped, let him ignore this when we've actually forwarded it. Let the presidents of countries that are members of the UNWTO, whose ministers are agents, ignore this when we've actually done something about it, and that is writing them directly to say, we are flagging the UNWTO. There are things that are not going on right there. So we cannot sit here and then become lame ducks. No, we are eminent people in the sector. We carry residual authority and experiential authority of having been associated with the agency. And in the instance of Taleb and Francesco, actually having run the agency very competently. And we have benchmarks of how it should be done. So let's convert this action to more executive decisions that are escalated to the right people with the right of decision making. I thank you.
Walter, this was such a good statement, and hopefully this can be done, and I'm sure you know the way how to reach the right people, and Taleb does, and Mr. Vanjali does. But Taleb, I'm really glad we have you now on our screen directly. So you said a few things, and I don't think anyone really understood exactly what you said. So I wanted to give you the floor just to maybe repeat what you said or add to what we have discussed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. Now, I want to say, first of all, I welcome the participation of Francesco Franciali particularly. He's a very experienced man. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And what he said is absolutely correct and clear. The only thing I don't share with him is this form of pessimism. I think we should be optimistic about this. We can do it if we want to. We can. We have to collectively work on that together. Now, the United Nations, the UN together, Antonio Guterres is a disappointment to me. He used to be a very good man before he was elected. Now he's not doing anything at all. It's the multilateral system that's at fault, the whole system. The UN system is altogether not working well. And Antonio Guterres is part of it. So we can't count on that. We have to count on our people, our heads of states and our ministers. That's what we should count on, really. That's what I want to say for the time being. I think we can do it. I think the letter is a good letter. And it follows the letter that French, when I signed in January, before the elections of the Secretary General by the Executive Council, which was very illegal because it took place in January. It should not have been moved to January to start with. That was the essence of our letter at the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we had, there are 4 people raising their hands. So we have Galileo Violini. Please also tell us where you're calling from and if you represent any organization or company who you represent. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jürgen. I don't represent anybody. I am a former UNESCO staff. I was director and representative of UNESCO to Islamic Republic of Iran some years ago. And my worry comes basically from my understanding of what the UN system means and should mean. I'm worried that, this pandemic has created a problem for the UN system. The fact that certain recommendations of the Secretary General of the Health Organization, of the Trade Organization, have been ignored or used or have not been effective, in my view, is a threat for the United Nations system. Therefore, in this situation, UNWTO, for me, represents an additional piece of a threat to United Nations system. Now, this led me to study this problem, and I learned a lot about that. I, frankly speaking, consider against the principle of United Nations system the fact that a current Secretary General makes a selective choice of the countries he visits in the year before the Executive Council. I studied his Facebook. Look at it. You will find that he visited almost all the countries of the Executive Council and only 3 or 4 outside the Executive Council.
That's right.
And this is really unacceptable from my point of view of UN's staff member. Moreover, certain things I read in the last few days, for example, the way that the appointment is presented, which is presented as a due ratification of the decision of the Executive Council. In the UN, Executive Council does not elect, recommend to the General Conference the acceptance of a proposal, with rules for what happens if this is not accepted. Instead, both in the first announcement of this meeting of Madrid, and then in the last circular which has been sent, in which it is explained, which is not requested, that in the past usually it is made by acclamation, but this is not normal. If it is made by acclamation, it is a matter of the General Assembly, not of the current Secretariat to inform people that they could acclamate. But then there was another thing. The way in which the Secretariat reacted to the Kenya proposals to host the meeting is again an attribution of rights which, in my view, the Secretary General does not have. When there was the letter from Morocco saying that they would not be able to host the conference, the duty of the Secretariat was to act according to the rules. And this is the basic problem. One must bind to the rules. And the only rule I know is the rule which was taken in 78 conference in Buenos Aires. This rule says 2 things which are contextual, are not separate one from each other. The 2/3 rule is one, the secret vote is another. If one accepts the principle that one can overthrow the rule of the secret vote on the same basis, you could make the theory that also a simple majority may be able to elect the Secretary General. And this, in my view, is not acceptable. Rules must be sure, must be correct. Now, what does this mean? This means that one should try to avoid the problem which was mentioned by Jürgen, that if the meeting is done, is mainly attended by ambassadors, there is a flaw in this meeting. It is clear. Now, I'm afraid that the idea of moving all this matter only within the tourism sector is, to some extent, not short-sighted, but not very understanding the size of the problem United Nations are facing. In my view, after this discussion, I would recommend that the open letters is sent not to the Minister of Science, Science is from my background, to the Ministers of Tourism, but to the Prime Ministers, requesting them to give clear indication to their delegation in Madrid. Second, the request, or an explicit request of a vote also in absence through mechanisms which are used in plenty of organizations in these days because of the pandemic. In this emergency, to put the question on the table that the vote must be open also to countries who are not present in Madrid. If this is not accepted, to accept the principle of delegation of countries from one to another. But what is necessary is that the election is made by all the about 160, 159 countries of WTO. And this is also another point. Don't forget that when I was saying I was referring to the selective choice of the visitor countries in 2019 by the current Secretary General. Many countries who have not been selected in this choice are countries which are not in condition to participate in the conference. But there are also the countries which are more interested in tourism. I think about Caribbean. I have been for 2 years advisor to the Minister of Science in Dominican Republic. And I think to African countries. And so it is, I think there are these countries, the countries of Caribbean, the countries of little islands, the countries of Africa, which should put the pressure on the system in order to have a clean election of the Secretary General. And now, last comment. I mentioned many things, but when I was in Dominican Republic, and Jürgen remembers this, I could see one more case of strange things of the current Secretary General. And this is one of the things which moved me to interest myself in this matter. You remember when he decided to call for a meeting in Punta Cana when there was a conflicted meeting, a different meeting, which was not of his faith, going on in Cancun. Well, these things, in my view, are not acceptable in a UN system which must be clean, transparent, and not linked to personal interest of anybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Galileo, and thank you for your contribution. Also, thank you for your good contribution you've made for eTurbo News. We really appreciate it. And I wanted to go to Morris Kusetara. Morris, tell us where you're from and who you represent. And thanks for waiting.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Morris Kusetara. I'm from Polar Projects, which is a company owned by Polar Plus in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much. I've been listening and following this debate over many years. And in the last year, we've been running the African Tourism Showcase in association with the African Tourism Board, and that is with Sir Alan Sendanj and Dr. Talib Rifai and Dr. Walter Mzembe and the whole team. It is we have followed the debate of what happened in the UNWTO over many years, and it is clear that there has been an opportunity missed due to the system that has been put in place. But however, we clearly see that we do not need to continue losing time and losing the opportunities that can be engaged on and can be utilized. We have seen with the African Tourism Board the impact that it has in Africa when the team, the expert team of leaders, of eminent travel industry leaders, like what Dr. Walter Mzembe has mentioned, when they came together to create the African Tourism Board, and they are making a great impact. But however, we see this issue as a thorn in the flesh, because it's likely to happen again, and it's likely to push aside some countries that would actually benefit from the system that comes collectively together. And as we stand on the sideline looking and watching, I like the words that Dr. Talib Rifai has said, that there is still hope to make changes. But despite that, it might be that we have to make the changes for the next election or for the next generation of new players, because we got now tourism players now who are outside the system, but still making great contribution, like Dr. Walter Mzembe. He still remains resolute. He still remains really upbeat with tourism progress. And therefore we should, as a group and as a collective group, try to create something or try to do more initiatives that will make these systems that have been in place for years realize that there is need for change. Because we might try to reinvent the wheel, or we might try to go back to try to sort these systems out, but they might be too set in stone. So we need to move forward and create some regional impact groups like African Tourism Board, and come together with the private sector, with new players in the tourism industry. We got an opportunity here. We got a great opportunity. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morris.
Very much, Morris, for your contribution. And we have two more. I wanted to go to the First Lady who's speaking here tonight. And Motoni Vangi, give us let us know where you're calling from.
Good morning, good afternoon from everywhere you're from. So my name is Modoni Mwangi and I'm from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm an independent consultant. In 2007, when the post-election violence hit Kenya, I became interested in the discourse of peace and tourism. So for 14 years, I've just been doing research, and now I'm ready to launch peace tourism. But when looking at this conversation, because I've been focusing on the discourse of peace tourism and security, I believe that the United Nations system is very political. And of course, when you do go into an international relations and peace study, you end up understanding the system of the United Nations and players that contribute to peace building. So when I look at the tourism industry globally, we're suffering from challenges of peace and security. Therefore, I come across with innovative and radical solutions, and these are constantly impacting our industry. And when I look at the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, you're finding that most of the countries that actually grant many other developing countries that have amazing tourism destinations. So you have the United Kingdom and the United States. I'm not here to attack any nation, but I'm actually just looking at the breakdown of the United Nations system and looking at the power dynamics. So personally, I think that using, for example, the United Nations Security Council to also come on board and help us have this conversation about the United System and how the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the future of leadership in our industry will affect us. Because I feel that when it comes to politics, tourism in itself is a political economy. And I feel that sometimes, in as much as Dr. Taleb Rifai he summarized it very well and said that let's look to the heads of states and ministers, but sometimes when the heads of states and ministers go before us, they're not actually addressing certain issues and challenges and threats that the industry is suffering from. So my conclusion is politics is very interesting. It's also a very difficult conversation for tourism to have, because when I look at Kenya, for example, politics and tourism have a very uneasy relationship, and it's a very common thing globally that tourism and politics has an uneasy relationship. So I would also say that in the meantime, as we wait for all of this to happen, let us also leverage on the role of public policy and also the role of media, and also look at how we can collaborate with organizations like the African Union and the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation to try and create peace in our countries, because tourism also cannot work when we cannot be in a position to market our destinations as peaceful. So I think I'll stop there, because so that I don't turn it into a lecture, because I have a lot of information that I'd love to share. But right now, I think we need some radical solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Botoni. And peace through tourism is definitely the key for everything. Actually, Louis D'Amour, who is the founder of the Institute for Peace Through Tourism, called me today. He said he would have loved to be part of this group tonight, but it's 3 in the morning where he is in New York. So, but he's looking forward to listen to what we had to say, and we'd send him the archive. Raed Habis is raising his hand. Raed is actually the head of our Saudi interest group for the World Tourism Network, and he's probably joining us from Jeddah or from Riyadh. Where are you, Raed?
Oh, good morning, everybody. Good evening from Jeddah. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Talib. How are you, sir?
Allah يخليك.
Okay, great. Well, I listened to the energetic, positive word that Dr. Talib, he always do in any groups. And you get me really excited to talk. And also I have listened and been monitoring the situation for the nomination for the UN Secretary General. Actually, what I wanted to say that we live in a world where it cannot be isolated. And the whole world, and especially the industry of tourism, is very integrated and interlinked together, being an ex-IATA staff in Saudi Arabia and on global level. And from time to time, systems are challenged, and I think the industry of tourism been challenged a lot during the COVID time, and we have not really seen too much leadership to link and to integrate, to innovate, and to find solutions on a global level or a regional level, as some of our friends have stated earlier. And that shows really a weakness on the part of the UNWTO on how effective its programs and how much it is integrated, and how that organization really need to be having new bloods and having more focus into bringing solutions between UNWTO organizations such as WHO, working with maybe other agencies or organizations like IATA, like some of the world financing bodies, ICDT or technology, and trying to find a global solution and how to make that industry rebuild again and to make sure there is enough safety and security for travelers to gain back the trust of the tourists globally or regionally or locally. I would like also to state here that Saudi Arabia tried to do so much contribution to the UNWTO during the COVID era and also has innovated some applications, and now Saudi Arabia is completely open to the whole world, and that could be maybe models to be used in other world or other areas or other region, and to make tourism resilience and sustainable. Thank you so much, and I really believe in this group that it is like the brain of the industry. It is like a think tank. It is like a watch group. And this is where that organization, I think, on the General Assembly level or the executive level, they need to listen to the private sector, to consultant, and to organization to make that machinery work again. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry for talking too long.
No, thank you, Raed, and also thank you for having the most active interest groups in the World Tourism Network. I'm following all your posts, at least the ones in English, on the WhatsApp group. And I know there's some progress to be made. And of course, Saudi Arabia has a very special role now in global tourism, with both UNWTO and WTTC having regional offices in your country. And the new initiative was just started in Glasgow a few days ago, with 10 countries invited to participate. And I understand from Gloria there are more coming. And I'm excited that also the United States and the UK and Kenya are a part of this group, and Jamaica and so forth. So there is some progress made. And hopefully this can be all eventually be brought back into the UNWTO, into a better UNWTO. And we're in a learning process. I mean, the best thing out of this meeting, hopefully what we can get out of this meeting is a next step. So we are running a little bit out of time. We allocated an hour. We're an hour and a half now in the meeting. I don't see anyone raising hands, but we have the four of you who are who signed this open letter. No, Walter hasn't signed it and Alain hasn't signed it, but Carlos did and Talib did. But what is the next step now? Maybe we can start with Carlos and then also hear from Walter and Alain, and we can wrap it up after this, if that's okay.
Well, I think the next step is basically to hope for a General Assembly to do its job. That is to analyze, as I said earlier, thoroughly the documents that are presented to them and ensure that the process which is followed in the election of the Secretary General, B, ratification of the proposal presented by the Executive Council, or B, requesting a vote for the either ratification or not, and opening a new process, that is done, taking into consideration all the things that we have spoken about where the organization stands today, what is the outcome of the last 4 years of the current management, and what needs to be done in order to ensure a healthy, honest, and proper UNWTO for the future. As we said earlier, tourism is facing many challenges. Right now, the pandemic is the most important one we ever faced. We cannot afford to not having proper leadership in the organization that should represent us all. And I think the responsibility that sits with governments today in the decision they need to take, in the type of UNWTO that they want for all of us, is fundamental. And they need to exercise that responsibility in a thorough way, analyzing all the consequences of a wrong decision. So I think the next steps are very clear. We need to demand the General Assembly to do a proper job so that we can have a proper and legitimized leadership in the next 4 years in the UNWTO.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And that, of course, is up to the ministers, the members and delegates that are attending or that have the influence in this thing. But how do we get to these people? I mean, the heads of states were mentioned. I think this was an excellent idea. Maybe, Alain, you have some ideas here and add your comments, please. Alain, can you unmute yourself, please? You're still muted. There we go. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jorgen. I think I want to start by saying, Mr. Galileo Violini, I appreciated your insight into the UN system. I appreciated it because you came out. We always talk tourism, but we must realize that tourism is only part and parcel of where the world is leading today. The words of Dr. Rifai is always refreshing, as was Francelli, Carlos, Walter, and everybody else who spoke today. I want to suggest that the way forward should be the open letter is redirected to, as Taleb said, to all the prime ministers and presidents who sit today, not just the General Assembly members, but the whole world should be alerted to the dilemma.
I think
he was talking about the climate. Sorry. He was talking about the climate dilemma, the climate change dilemma. But this is an economic change that is needed, an economic situation that is affecting the world. If the world has no finances, mitigate the change of climate that is so needed, you need the economies of the world to be working. And the economies of the world today, a greater part of the world, is through tourism. So the Secretary General and the body at the UN must be alerted to this deficiency that is taking place. I suggest the open letter goes to them, but also through Jorgen. Unfortunately, it falls on you. You will have to be able to communicate this letter with feedback coming from today to the world at large. Let us work together, and I think Taleb is right. Let us be optimistic about possibilities that exist. Let us work together, and let us try and make a difference for the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alain. Much appreciated. And yes, from our end, talking eTurbo News, we're definitely not going to stop reporting about the issue, and it's an important issue. I agree. Walter, before we get to you, I just maybe real quick, Burkhard, you got to promise 1 minute. But Burkhard Herborte, he's a good friend and a good supporter for the industry. As long as I can think back, he's in Germany, and if anyone knows about anything, it's Burkhard. So Burkhard, I give you the floor just for a minute because we're wrapping up here. But I don't want to just ignore you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jürgen. I will make it quick. So, Alain, Walter, when I listen to you, both of you would be a good person at the very top. You have it in your blood. You will feel it. you have it in your blood, you have it in your genes. Also, of course, Taleb has. And I agree with Taleb, we should look very positive into the future, because when we look negative, we will not have a future. On the other hand, I agree with Francesco when he said the mentality of the decision makers and the people around us, the decision makers, has changed. Of course, there will be a lot of exceptions of the rule, but I also realize that more and more this old mentality of the old socialist system is coming up somehow, and I don't know why. So what's saying, when I don't move, I don't make a mistake, and I don't want to make a mistake, so I don't move. So of course, this is very short, but I see Alan laughing, and so he agrees. And I think we need to find a bridge here. And I like the idea to also contact the prime ministers and so on. But in fact, what should they do? I think we need to say again and again and again, repeatedly, that tourism is, or at least before Corona, used to be the world's largest employer. And we need to give some extreme examples, that even the people cleaning up the airplanes at the airports, or catering service or whatever, they depend on these jobs. And we have to highlight that 15 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are connected directly with tourism. So, but the world of politics, in my eyes, they're sleeping. They are really sleeping. And the result we will see, we already have seen in Madrid. So 1 minute, I close my mouth.
Thank you very much, Burkhard. And let's move on with Walter.
Thank you, Jürgen. First and foremost, let me thank you for organizing all this and getting us into one room. It's really a distinguished gathering of guardians for the sector. Having said that, let me start off on the first most critical important factor here is the renewal of optimism. It's not all lost, as Taleb said, so we can get back into action. Having said that, if my signature is missing and that of Alan is missing, first and foremost in the open letter, I would like to append my signature to the open letter. But is it fit for purpose to go to the heads of states, the same letter? We may need to look at an edition that specifically addresses heads of states, prime ministers, regional economic blocks or geopolitical blocks, and that speaks to the issues benefiting from all the beautiful contributions and experienced contributions that have already been made. I think Francesco Frangeli summarized what should have happened under COVID. Heads of states need to come into the context of what should have happened and impact study partnerships with UN systems, and going forward, post-recovery must be signposted. This is what we expect from a Secretary General. So we enrich the context of the letter that is going to the heads of states, and we dispatch it. And we must not leave the United Nations system out of the loop of the recipients of our appeal letter. It must go to them, because ultimately, that's where the epitome of diplomacy is actually right in the UN system itself. So I'm in favor of action. Let's turn this energy inside this room into more concrete action following these steps and others that will follow. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to give the last word, before I give the last word to Taleb, I wanted to thank also our audience and everyone for being part of it. And you, for those watching us on eTurbo News and our other platforms right now, we will be repeating it after a while. So you're going to see this for the next day or two, rotating with some other features. And it'll also be archived on livestream.travel. And you can, or of course on our YouTube channel, you click on the link on any of our websites and newsletter to YouTube. It goes to youtube.com/travel news, I believe. And you will be able to see this. And of course, we're going to report about it. On December 29th, 2017, when Taleb Rifai gave his last speech at the UNWTO, he said, "Dear friends, whatever our business in life may be, let us always remember that our core business is and will always be to make this world a better place." And with this, Taleb, I want to give you the last word tonight.
Thank you so much, Jürgen. I want to start by thanking you particularly. You've been leading this fight and this very important endeavor for the last few years, actually. You're a great person. Bringing us all together is an important achievement as well. Now, where do we go from here? I think we should intensify the distribution of this letter as much as we can. Should go to heads of states, should go to heads of governments, should go to heads of organizations, regional organizations, UN organizations, anybody that's of relevance should receive a letter like this. It should also receive the letter that Francesco Frangiali and I sent to the open letter that was sent a few months ago after the January meeting. That was illegal. And there's a lot of mistakes there. Now, what I need to say is that we should never give up the fight. Never. I know Frangiali is a very realistic person, and I'm happy he's with us today. But Francesco, we need to have some hope. We have to intensify the distribution of this letter. Some good names are on this letter, not mine, of course. Talking about Carlos Vogeler, talking about Jose Blanche, many, many others. Now, this is my request to you. Let's intensify the distribution of this letter and see where it takes us. Thank you so much, Jürgen.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Taleb. And we hope we can continue this conversation. There's not too much time. So whatever we need to do, I think we need to do fast. And
yeah.
If there's any help anyone needs from my end, you got it. Just let me know. And we leave it in your capable hands to go to the next step and make this all a reality and a better future for tourism, health to everyone who's participating. Let's hope Corona will not stop another season of tourism. The situation in Europe doesn't seem to be so promising this morning, but there is a lot of optimism in this world. And from me, myself, just returned from the World Travel Market and from IMAX in Las Vegas. Wow, there was really an excitement in this industry. And maybe we're on the right path forward. And I wanted to again thank everyone for joining us today and wish you a nice day or evening. Anyone watching us from Hawaii, I know it's almost midnight. And we see you again very soon. I know there's 2 more hands that are raised. We're going to give you the floor next time, or if there's anything you wanted to contribute, we're going to write about it, and just feel free to add it to the chat or just email us. And you'll find our contact information if you go to any of our website at wtn.travel for World Tourism Network. Actually, if you go to that website and you look at projects or activities, I think it says you also find the old letter Taleb was speaking about. And if you go to eTurbo News, of course, you can always search this. Aloha from Hawaii, and good night, and we see you all soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, JT.
Bye.
Yes, goodbye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
All.
Good night. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, JT.
Sawadee krap, Andrew.